sausage get? I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome back to Indigenous Food Friday. Today we are going to make fish, which I'm using trout, stuffed with buffalo sausage. You heard me right, fish and buffalo sausage. We caught these fish yesterday, so they are super, super fresh. And the buffalo sausage I make from scratch. Now for the fish and the sausage, you can use whatever you have. I'm on a diet now where I'm sticking mainly with indigenous foods and a ton of protein. So I'm not using beef at all anymore, but I'm staying close to really lean indigenous meats. So buffalo, elk, deer, rabbit, that sort of thing. So buffalo is great, but use what you have. So if you don't have buffalo, but you have beef or ground turkey, you can use that. I'll show you in a minute how to make your sausage. But all you're going to need is your sausage, which is your protein, salt, pepper, cayenne, paprika, some greens, which I use dandelion, plantain, and sage, and onion powder. I think I covered it all. I'll do it in just a minute to show you that. And then fish for however many people you are feeding, salt and pepper, and some sumac. Super easy. Oh, and a little bit of sunflower oil just so it doesn't stick. I cook these in a cast iron pot over the fire. You don't have to do that, but it tastes better, I think, if you do. You can also wrap these in foil and just cook them in the oven, or just put them on a baking sheet on top of parchment paper and broil them or bake them in the oven to your liking. So let's get going. So I've got 3 fish that are dressed. They're rinsed well and dried well with a paper towel or kitchen towel. And then I've got my buffalo sausage, which has been all marinating for 24 to 48 hours. Just so that it can all marinate and get in there with all of its goodness. So let's get going. Okay, so now we've got our ground buffalo, but again, you can use any kind of meat you want. You could use ground turkey, venison, you could even use beef if you want. I'm not eating beef now because of the diet that I'm on. I'm just eating pure indigenous foods and lots of protein. So I've got really lean buffalo. Elk is also another really good one. Moose, caribou, but you can use any kind of ground meat you want. If you're a pescatarian and you eat fish, but you don't want to eat any other kind of meat, you can use tofu or other plant-based meat substitute you want. But I've got a pound of buffalo here, and then I'm going to add a teaspoon of sea salt. I have a teaspoon of ground black pepper, a teaspoon of ground onion powder, and a teaspoon, this is a mixture of, I've got a teaspoon of caraway, about a half a teaspoon of anise, and a half a teaspoon of fennel. I'm going to put that in. And here I have a mixture, I have a teaspoon of smoked paprika, about a half a teaspoon of cayenne, but you can adjust that to whatever kind of heat you want. And then I have about a half a teaspoon of sumac for some extra added acid and flavor. Dump that in. So this is for our buffalo sausage. So that just a refresher of, you know what we're making. Then I have a teaspoon of ground mustard. And then I just have a mixture, whoa, collapsing of the jars or the bowls. I have here a mixture of greens. So dried ground dandelion greens, plantain, any kind of greens you have. You can even use parsley and basil and oregano if you want. But this is mustard greens and plantain and sage. And we're going to put that in. Now with very clean hands, take your rings off. We're going to mix this with our hands, and we want to mix it really well. And it just, your hands work best for this. And it will take a minute because you want to get it all the way through. Now it is best if you have time to prepare this at least the night before, if not 2 nights before you're going to use it, just so that all of the herbs can really marinate into the meat and really get saturated, because you're making your own sausage here. So in essence, you could use pork too, but if you want to stay towards indigenous style of cooking and ingredients, you're going to want to try to go with what you have here. But again, food sovereignty is also about using what you have, so that you can sustain your way of life and feed your children and your family and yourselves. So use what is available to you, especially with food prices going up and up and up. Food sovereignty is more important than ever, because in today's economy and everything, it's just hunger in America is just going to get worse. So learn to grow for yourself. Start your gardens really soon. Make sure it's stuff that your kids and family will eat and use, or that you can trade and barter with. Okay. And you can see that everything is really getting mixed and kneaded in. There's nothing worse than taking a bite of like sausage or meat and you get like a whole mouthful of just salt or pepper, onion powder, or cayenne. Yeah, that's no fun. So you really want to make sure it is all mixed and kneaded in. There, I think that's great. So now I'm just going to pat it down. Now I'm going to cover this. Well, of course, I'm going to wash my hands and then I'm going to cover this and I'm going to let it sit overnight, or of course you can use it immediately, but for best results, 24 to 48 hours. Let this sit in the fridge and it's going to be delicious. Okay, so now I'm just bringing a medium-sized skillet up to temperature over medium heat. I'm going to add a little bit of sunflower oil, simply because buffalo meat is so lean, it will stick to the pan, and we don't want that. We don't want any of that to burn. You can use any kind of oil that you have. You can use lard, bacon fat, it doesn't matter. I like sunflower oil because it's super low in cholesterol, it's super high in good fat, and it's tasteless, and it's thin, and it's indigenous. So we'll get this all heated up, and then you can see how beautiful the sausage is turned out. It's dark, and because it's so lean, but then with all the added spices and greens in there, it makes it nice and dark. We're just going to go ahead and add that carefully. I don't want to splatter anything. Okay. And then we're just going to cook this up so it's just like ground sausage. My son is already outside. I've got him starting the fire so we can get coals. So if you hear him chopping wood, that's just him being a good son. Plus, he knows that he'll get to eat something delicious, so he's all for that. And I've been gone for a while. I've taken almost a 2-month break, which it was much needed. I did have a pretty big surgery, but all went well and I'm healing well. I'm doing really well. This year is going to be a year for me to get on top of my health, be more active, and because my brain and my spirit feels really young, but my body has been feeling really old, and because I've had some health issues, this year is going to be all about me getting my body to match what I feel inside. So that's going to deal with more indigenous cooking, eating healthy, being more active, and so my hope is to be able to share that with all of you. Then you're just going to cook this until it's all nice and brown and done. You want to break it up so that it's in nice little pieces because we're going to be stuffing the fish with it. So we don't want any really big chunks. in there. And because it is so lean, it just takes a little bit more time to break it up. But that's okay. It just reaffirms that you are eating something really good for you. Buffalo has no carbs and no fat. Very, very little fat. So what you're getting is pure protein and iron and all the stuff you need. Now, if you are a pescatarian and you want to make this recipe, but you don't want to use red meat or even like ground chicken or anything because you're a pescatarian, that's totally fine. You can use a plant-based protein, tofu if that works. I haven't ever really cooked with tofu, so I don't know. But I know there's a lot of plant-based meat alternatives out there that you could use as well. But I'm going all indigenous cooking this year, so our protein is what we've been eating for thousands of years, you know. And because buffalo is so lean, it doesn't take long at all for it to cook up. And oh my gosh, it smells so good. Okay, so once this is all finished up, you're gonna let it cool. You're gonna set it aside. Now, if you've had your fish in the fridge, go ahead and bring that out, make sure it's rinsed and dried off, because you're gonna want that brought up to room temperature. You don't want it super, super cold, and you don't want your sausage to be hot. So bring your fish out, rinse it and dry it so that it can come up to room temperature, and then you're gonna cook this sausage and let it sit out. You can cover it just until it's also at room temperature. Okay, so I'm gonna do that and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so now everything is pretty much at room temperature. So we're gonna go ahead and stuff the fish with the sausage. So I'm gonna start with the smallest one just because it's adorable. This is actually the one my son caught, so it's perfect. This is actually gonna be the one that I eat. And then I caught these two and these will go to my boys. So of course you've cleaned it and everything. So you're just going to put the sausage into the cavity of the fish. Just like that. And then I do have some toothpicks I'm going to put in carefully just to keep it closed. And of course I have these like monstrous extra large toothpicks that are total overkill, but you know, probably put in one more. There we go. Now I've got, well, let's do this. I'm going to get all the fish stuffed and then I'll go to the next part. Okay, so now we'll go with the other fish. And let's get that stuffed. We don't want to waste anything. Get that all nice. And so now you can tell why you need it like really ground up into little pieces, so that you can get as much in there as possible. And then toothpick it closed. Without stabbing yourself, you know. So now we've got two. And so clearly I'm going to have leftover sausage, and I'll show you what you can do with that so that it's not wasted. Don't worry, we're going to use it. Now we have to cook the sausage first because of course it's going to take longer to cook than the fish, and it has a higher temperature to cook at. So that's why we don't just cook it all at the same time. Okay, so we've got all of those stuffed and closed as much as possible. Then I'm going to scoot over here. I have a 12-inch cast iron Dutch oven. This is the kind that you use with briquettes or on the fire. We've got like probably 10 of these. We use it for everything. I line it with foil. You can use parchment paper if you want, but I think foil works best because if you just cook the fish in it on the cast iron, it gets into the pores and then everything tastes like fish, and I don't like that. So I line it with some foil, and then I'm gonna lay down, just make it sure it's nice and coated with some sunflower oil, because the trout and the buffalo have little to no fat. So now I'm going to spread that all around. And then we are going to, very carefully, you're going to salt the outside of the fish. Let's get them all facing the right way. So I'm going to salt one side, and then a little bit of ground pepper. And then I'm going to place it, the side that I seasoned, I'm going to put it in face down. But any sausage that falls out, just stuff it right back in. I'm going to put this little one in the middle so it doesn't get burnt or overcooked. Okay. So these guys are all in there. I'm going to salt and pepper now the other side that didn't get any seasoning. Okay. Salt, some pepper. And then I have some ground wild sumac. And I'm just going to put it over the top. This is going to add some nice lemony citric acid flavor, as well as really good nutrition. Okay, so that's all seasoned. Now I've got the rest of the buffalo sausage. I'm just gonna sprinkle it all around. Now all the flavor from that sausage is what's gonna flavor your fish. So just remember, you can add anything into the sausage that you want to, whether it's an indigenous or not indigenous herb or spice. Add what you like, add what you have. If you don't like as much heat as I put in, add less. If you like more, add more. Chipotle is also really good in it. So you're just gonna cover everything with that sausage. Look how gorgeous that looks. I mean, beautiful. So now you're going to put the lid on, and we're going to cook it in the fire over a nice hot bed of coals. You can use briquettes if you want. I've got a fire going, so we're just going to put it right in the fire pit. And we're going to let it cook for 10 minutes. Open it up and just check it. If the fish is all flaky, perfect, it's done. It also depends on how big your fish are. So just put it in 5 to 10 minutes. If they're smaller fish like this, you can check it at 5 minutes. It won't hurt it to check. But for this, I'm going to put it in, I said 10 minutes, but now I'm going to change my mind to, I'm going to put it in for 7 minutes and check it. And then once it's done, I'll meet you back here. Again, you can pop this in the oven if you want. I would probably do 425 degrees for 10 minutes. If you use it in the oven. You can also use a broiler, whatever way you have. If you don't have the ability to have a fire or have briquettes in your driveway or in your yard, use your oven. It's totally fine. Use what you have. Just because you don't have outside or a grill outside or a fireplace doesn't mean you can't make this. You can make this stovetop. You can make it in the oven. Give it a try. I think you'll like it. Okay, I'm going to cook this. I'm also going to cook a pot of wild rice for us to have with this. I'm not going to show you how to do that because you already know how to do it. So we're just gonna have this. We're gonna have the buffalo sausage with our trout with some wild rice, and there's our meal. So I'll meet you back here in about 10 minutes. Okay, so it is done, and now we're gonna dish up. So I like to put down a nice bed of wild rice. And it's me, so of course I make a mess along the way. And then very carefully out of the Dutch oven or whatever container you used, get the fish out. And look how beautiful. Oh, there, slides right off. I was going to show you, but we'll just go like this so that you can see. It just looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and take the toothpicks out because who wants toothpicks in their food? And then a little bit more of the sausage. And then to top it off, I'm going to sprinkle some cut up wild onion grass. And add some green and some awesome nutrients to it. I'm going to also put it on the wild rice. And there you go. A little bit of taste of spring with our fish with buffalo sausage and wild rice. So here you go. I hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Bon appetit.